Hello everybody, it's Mike Paterson from White Turtle Adventures here in southern Alberta, Canada. Welcome back to the van. Well, I had a whole bunch of videos set up to go out, and every time I get ready to publish one, somebody asks me a different question and it takes me a different way. So today is one of those little bunny trail days that I want to address something that people have been asking, and I think a lot of it is related more to what's happening with COVID-19 and van life as it is with anything else in the van. And that is, what do you do about food in the van? Now, I had a whole series to set up to address this, but I just want to talk really quickly about some of the things that you can do in your van just to make sure that you have the food that you need and that you are able to travel and not worry about where your next meal is going to come from. So, first of all, in my van, as I've said before, I have a fridge and I have quite a large cupboard for food. I also have a Tupperware bin underneath my bed at the back for additional food. Now, if you're going out for a day or even a weekend or a week, you'll find that your food, the way you do it, is a little bit different than if you live in your van full time. If you're going out for a weekend and then coming back, you never really seem to get comfortable with the food in your van. You never seem to have the extras like spices or extra little things in your van that you do when you actually live in it full time. So it can be a little bit harder if you're going out for short terms than it is if you're going out for long term and living in your van. If you do live in your van, you may find that for the first week or 2 weeks or even a month that you're constantly running out of certain things or you're constantly looking for things. One thing, and I have a spice rack here, but a lot of people go, oh, I wish I had spices. Well, get yourself a spice rack, get the spices, start adding the spices to your vehicle so that you have them so you can season your food. Other people will say, oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that, because there's a lot of stuff that we have in a house, in our pantries, that we don't carry in a van because we just don't think about it. But then after you start living in it for a while, you go, oh, I really need that, or I really need this. One thing for me is vanilla. I like making homemade pancakes, and homemade pancakes call for vanilla. So a lot of times I'll hit out on the road and I'll have flour, I'll have salt, and I'll maybe even have eggs with me and such, but I don't have vanilla. So a lot of times if you're going to go out, what I strongly suggest that you do is, as you're baking things and making things in the house, that you actually put some of that stuff aside to put out in your van. Now, in southern Alberta in the wintertime, that doesn't work very well because everything freezes harder than a rock here. But what I tend to do is I put it into a closet in the house that I have, and then when I'm going away, I can grab the ingredients for what I want to eat and then put them out into my van so that I have them on that trip. The other thing that I do, and this is something that I have found helps me out a lot. In fact, just yesterday, my wife and I were out traveling through southern Alberta, and we expected to be home by lunchtime, but things didn't work out that way. So we ended up wanting to have something to eat. So what do I do for that? Well, I carry within my van, stuffed in a lot of my different cupboards, I carry freeze-dried meals. Now, I'm not going to say that they are gourmet. I'm not going to say that they are high class, but they're actually, I find them very good. I have several different types in here. This one here is a Moroccan feast. Yesterday we had a stir fry, and there's many other ones that I carry. They help a lot. Not only are they filling, not only are they semi-healthy for you, some of them more so than others, but you can put them in the van, and if you don't eat them for a year, they're still good. They'll last a lot of times 2 to 3 years, sometimes even longer. And they're great to have with you. I have a jet boil. I always have water bottles in my fridge. It's just one of those things that if I'm going to head out in the middle of the night to do astrophotography, I like to know that I have water in my fridge. So I keep it in my fridge at all times, even when I'm not in the van. So I have the water available. And between the food, the water, and the jet boil, it takes me 10 minutes and I have myself a good meal. So I strongly recommend that you stop someplace and pick yourself up 5, 10 freeze-dried meals and put them in your van. I have a bunch stuffed in the back in a more inaccessible place in some Rubbermaid bin with additional cooking utensils and stuff that I carry. And if I am ever out and I run out of the stuff that's up here, I have a few extra in the back. So I know that for a few days I'm good for food. Now, with COVID-19 and with a lot of grocery stores that had shut down and gas stations that wouldn't allow you inside and everything, it presented a lot of problems to a lot of people. This will help you get through that. The other thing I always tell people is you don't necessarily need to hoard, especially because you don't have room in a van or a mini home or a tiny home or a bus or an ambulance to do that, but pick up a little bit extra. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you have Cheerios every morning for breakfast, don't wait till your box of Cheerios is just about empty before you go and find the next box of Cheerios, because you may just find that you don't have a box of Cheerios for a few days. So what do I always do? I try to keep 2 of everything in the van. So if I have Shreddies in the van, which I happen to have Shreddies in the van right now, I have a bag of Shreddies in a Rubbermaid bin. As soon as I start eating that bag of Shreddies, I will stop and pick up in my next grocery fill up another box of Shreddies. I then discard the box. I put the bag itself in the cupboard so I don't have that extra bulk. And then I have the extra stuff. If you're going to be traveling in a van, if you're going to be going to areas where there's not necessarily grocery stores, or even if you're out in a boat with COVID-19, it's always good to have the extras. Now, for water, this is something I wasn't going to address, but because I mentioned the water I keep on board earlier, I thought I would address it a little bit here as well. I have a 5-gallon water jug from my sink. I could drink that water if I wanted to. The container that it is in is perfectly clean, and I clean it out on a regular basis, so I could drink that water if it came down to it. I also keep in my fridge, like I said before, several water bottles. I don't like water bottles because of the pollution and because it's just not good for our environment, but I keep them in here as an emergency water supply. The other thing that I have that I use a lot is I have a Rubbermaid dish container, and inside of it I have a collapsible jug. That jug will hold 5 gallons of water. I think it's 10 liters, and I can take it and fill it up anywheres. I find that if I have that, and with the other water I have on board, I'm actually never desperate for water. Again, what do? If I'm somewheres and I see that I can fill up my water supplies, I do that. With my water bottles, if I've used several water bottles and I don't want to have to go to the store and buy more, I'll just fill up those water bottles and put back in the fridge. With my water for the sink, it actually lasts a long time. In fact, yesterday we were out picking some berries and we were covered, and I came back actually a couple times and washed up. My wife came back and washed up, and then after we were done, we washed up, and the amount of water I used was about that much in the container. So I have a lot of water for actually washing up and such. So if you take those few things into account, you'll find that you'll never be desperate for stopping for food, and that you'll always have a little bit extra. So until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe and get out there and enjoy van life. Talk to you soon.